10 to 15 days maximum. Emily Schrader, the journalist and Middle East expert. What do you think of that? Good morning.
Good morning. Great to be with you. I mean, I think it's the same rhetoric we've seen from Trump for, I guess, now over a month. It started out with a stern warning to the Ayatollahs over their treatment of their own people, which, of course, they have continued killing. Even now, we see executions still taking place, mass arrests still taking place. And we've seen Donald Trump move forward with negotiations, much to the chagrin of the Iranian people, both in the diaspora and inside Iran. And now he's saying 10 to 15 days. We've also had reports from the White House that it could be minimal strikes first as early as this weekend, and then greater strikes if the regime does not indeed agree with his demands in terms of the negotiations. So, I mean, with Donald Trump, very difficult to predict. I do think something will happen. It's more of a question of when, not if, at this point.
When, not if. He says it could be very unfortunate for them. I just wonder if you think that, well, I suppose the question is, how have things changed since the summer? That was, of course, when Iran was bombed by the United States in regard to Israel. This is something very different, though, isn't it? It's related, but it's different.
It's absolutely different. I mean, we see even from the beginning when they're talking about negotiations, of course, there's just the discussion of the nuclear program. They still want to move forward with it, although they don't really have so much of a nuclear program anymore after past June. But they are trying, and they do have several hundred kilograms of highly enriched uranium that we don't necessarily know the whereabouts of. So this is a major issue on the nuclear front. But beyond that, they've been building they've been building ballistic missiles every single month since June. They've been trying to repair the missile launchers that Israel and the United States targeted in the last strikes back in June. So we know that they're prepping for some kind of war. Honestly, they have been for 48 years. Part of their ethos has been to destroy the state of Israel and destroy America, et cetera, et cetera. So this isn't really surprising. But the main game changer that we've seen is their treatment of their own people and the slaughter of more than 36,000 people.
That's what I want to talk about, Emily, because I don't want to be glib, I don't want to be simplistic about this. But how much has Donald Trump got those people in his mind? Because he said a number of weeks ago, help is on the way, when people were on the streets, when we could get some information about that. Information has been scarce, it's been piecemeal because of the huge repression, and perhaps you might want to outline exactly what your understanding is of what's happening of the people of Iran at this very moment. It's been going on for years, but particularly with those recent uprisings. We've had thousands of people killed. It's very important to focus on that, but without knowing the full picture, of course, that is a difficult thing too.
Of course. I mean, we're talking about a regime that has been using ambulances as cover for IRGC operatives. They have raided hospitals. There are reports from doctors and witnesses inside of hospitals saying that they shot injured protesters whom were already in the hospital. There are tens of thousands of people arrested. Many of them are on death row already. They've already been speeding up the trials in order to get these people executed. And on top of all that, we see the extrajudicial killings. We see that the IRGC forces have murdered more than at least 36,000 people. Based on the people that I've spoken to on the ground inside Iran, I would estimate it's more like 50 to 60,000, potentially even more. Just horrific scenes. And despite that, we're still seeing resistance on the ground inside Iran. Just in the past few days, we've seen a resurgence of small-scale protests, albeit nationwide, calling for an end to this regime, calling for accountability for the regime, and actually calling for the return of the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, which has actually been a united demand for the first time that we've seen across the nation inside Iran. So very interesting things happening on the ground here. Personally, I think Donald Trump has already waited far too long when it comes to the humanitarian concerns. This is something that he should have acted on immediately. At the same time, we don't know everything happening militarily. It could be that the United States is preparing for a much more intensive fight in order to ensure that this regime truly does fall. It would be the best thing, obviously, for the people of Iran. That's what they want. It's what they've been calling for. But beyond that, for the entire region, including the Arab world, including the state of Israel, and including the Western world. This is a regime that has spread radicalism and terrorism nationwide. I mean, there were dozens of attacks plotted by the IRGC inside the UK alone. And this has been their MO from the beginning, since 1979. And it's time. It's time for a regime change in Iran.
Do you think the UK gets it, Emily? Because we now have this ridiculous row saying that the UK government is probably not going to allow Donald Trump to launch strikes from UK air bases. There is an agreement there, but they have to agree to it. I just wonder, from your perspective, whether the UK gets it. You talked about the attacks we know on the streets of this country. There have been people who've been stabbed, who have been oppressed, who have been reported, who have had all sorts of dreadful action on UK soil against them by the Iranian regime. There are calls, of course, calls I totally support, to close and expel diplomats who are members of the Iranian regime. I just wonder whether you feel the UK gets it. And isn't it interesting that we've had hundreds of thousands of people on the streets of London protesting for human rights and for women's rights in Gaza, but not protesting in regard to Iran? There are lots of brave people who do that, but they're not often the same people.
Absolutely. I mean, the hypocrisy is very, very clear. Anyone who claims that they care about human rights, that was protesting for Palestinians, is silent now on Gaza. I mean, that speaks for itself. But I don't think the UK gets it. I don't think that they got it before. I don't think that they get it now. I think that they seem to be the last. Even in Europe, they seem to be the last to move forward.
I wonder why that is. I wonder why that is, Emily, and let's get into that in a second. But just before that, I want to hear from our Foreign Secretary here in the UK, Yvette Cooper. She's been reacting to reports the UK has told the US they cannot use RAF bases for strikes in Iran.
The UK and the US have a long, deep security partnership. We work immensely closely. And on the issue of Iran, that is why we're supporting the US talks taking place with Iran, because frankly, the Iranian regime has continued to pose a security threat, has continued to pursue nuclear weapons. And that is why we've supported sanctions and also to increase diplomatic and economic pressure on the regime. That's what we believe is the right thing to do.
I mean, that sounds like total flim-flam, Yvette. Emily, what do you think?
Absolute nonsense. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous response to think that after 48 years of the level of oppression that we've seen that regime carry out against their own people alone, that negotiations is going to change that. This regime, their etymology, their core is the destruction of the West. That's not going to change with negotiations. You know, if they're able to make a deal that somehow limits something, then I guess that's great, but that's not really the core of the issue. The core of the issue is the existence of the regime, and the Iranian people themselves have been leading that charge. This isn't something that's being imposed from the West. This isn't a regime change that's being pushed or demanded by world leaders in Washington, D.C. or in London. This is something that's coming from the people, and we owe it to them to listen to them and to listen to what they're asking for at the cost of their own lives. Tens of thousands of people being killed in the streets for freedom. And instead of taking a stand with those people, we see Western leaders like Yvette Cooper, the minister here, saying, oh, well, we believe that talking to their oppressors is the right solution. No, that's not the right solution.
And at what
the
stage
right solution is regime change.
And at what stage do you actually say, we've tried negotiation, it hasn't worked, and war or bombing is a form of diplomacy? It's a form of diplomacy that happens when everything else is exhausted. And as you correctly say, this is the people of Iran and their allies right around the world asking for this. I mean, if the UK doesn't allow the US military to take off from the bases here in the UK, well, what are the options for Donald Trump? What could he do militarily?
Well, I don't think that the United States military has any shortage of options when it comes to carrying out a large-scale operation against the Islamic Republic. We know that there are many bases in the Middle East, and I'm sure that they will swear left, right, and sideways that they also won't let the United States use them. At the end of the day, I think it's clear what's going to happen if that is what the president decides to do. He'll figure out a way to do it one way or the other. There is also the issue of the state of Israel, which may also be involved in something like this, particularly targeting the missile launchers and the ballistic missile storage. That may also be an element of attacks that we see on this regime. But again, everything is up in the air right now. We don't know exactly what's going to happen or when, but I do believe very firmly that something will happen.
Emily, superb analysis. Let's talk again. That's Emily Schrader there,